Greetings, brothers and sisters, another sort of Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies. So I covered this briefly yesterday on my other channel, my normal channel, my first channel. And it's how this unfunny, unlikable, bad piece of boop of a comedian in air quotes. It's like a way that somebody pretends to be something that they're not, kind of thing. Jimmy Kimmel threatens to sue Aaron Rodgers after Epstein remark.
All right, soon a federal judge is expected to release the names of dozens of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged victims and associates. And now comedian Jimmy Kimmel is threatening a lawsuit against New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers for insinuating without any evidence at all that Kimmel's name might be in those documents. This is what Rodgers said.
Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel, and he was joking. Aaron Rodgers was joking. I showed you the video yesterday. And he said, I don't know if he believes Kimmel's on the list or not, but he said it in a light way with a smile on his face, right? Jimmy Kimmel has said all kinds of inflammatory things about all kinds of people, mostly Trump, but Aaron Rodgers and other people, right? Jimmy Kimmel's a gatekeeper. That's why he's allowed to suck so bad and be everything that they're supposed to be canceling. If anybody should have been canceled, it's Jimmy Kimmel's. And I'm going to, I'm going to go all in on this mother MNFer. But he said all kinds of horrible things. And so for him to threaten a lawsuit over something it's just weak and lame. Even for this piece of boop.
Said in a radio show.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
Again, we didn't play it to amplify it. We played it so you could see what was said here.
Okay, I'm in the editing process, and I'm glad I was focused on this. When I'm editing, I sometimes have less focus, sometimes I have more on what I'm editing, but he just said, we're not playing this to amplify it as a so-called journalist, right? So there are a couple of things here, because he isn't saying that about all the stuff that Jimmy Kimmel's going to write about Aaron Rodgers. He's not saying, we're not trying to amplify what Jimmy Kimmel's saying, which is the worst of the two things. So what he's saying here is what Aaron Rodgers said is wrong. We're not trying to amplify what is wrong. When they play something from Donald Trump or from any number of people who are, in the bad guy category, they always say something, we're not trying to amplify this. We don't agree with this. Or they'll make gestures or sounds. They're good on Morning Joe where Mika's shaking her head and saying, oh, my God, that was so horrible, right? And I got something from Morning Joe that I'm going to play on my other channel tomorrow. And it's about the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, or whatever it is. And it's so bad. Like I was watching the end of Morning Joe. I just turned it on while I was eating breakfast, right? I went through these various channels, and I caught this moment, and it's great. It's spectacular. But they're great at telling their audience who to think is the good guy and who to think is the bad guy. And the other part to this is CNN is in competition with ABC Disney, right? Kimmel's network. They're in competition. Ted Turner basketball is in competition with ESPN basketball, right? These, they're competition. They're competing for the same dopey audience, right? In terms of CNN versus, ABC News and, ESPN, these other networks and things that go along with it. So they're not, aligned. And yet they're gatekeeper enough to all team up against someone like Aaron Rodgers or Kyrie Irving, or, they all have a script because they all work for the same companies. And one of those companies is Pfizer, right? Which we all know, right? So it's kind of great, this moment that he says this thing here. We're not trying to amplify this.
Again, we didn't play it to amplify it. We played it so you could see what was said here. Kimmel responded saying, in part, for the record, I have not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name in any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality.
So it's okay to call people who don't believe in the official story soft-brained wackos, right? We're soft-brain wackos. You have a hard brain? Is that what you're saying? You have a hard brain. Everyone else has a soft brain. your brain is made out of diamond. Like, it's a stupid joke anyway. It's classic. Kimmel fails. But the CNN didn't say, well, we're not trying to amplify his insults and his demonization of people who have critical thinking skills, right? There's a lot of dopes in the truth community. There are a lot of dopes that are obsessed with Jeffrey Epstein and the list, and nothing's going to come of it. There's a lot of stupidity there. But it's hard to believe that the official story about his suicide and that, a guy who was rich and powerful and he had influence over all these people, included someone who was in the line of the succession of the throne in England, who settled a $12 million lawsuit with a girl that he abused when she was 15, gave her $12 million. The royal family gave this girl $12 million. And then people like, Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, former presidents like that, and then all kinds of celebrities and powerful people that he had influence over and who rode on his jet, and somebody who's running for president now, right? In RFK Jr., he has influence over these people. And he had this, a deviant lifestyle, and people are concerned about it, but you're soft-brained. Again, there were some bogus lists that came out that were put out by the QBs, and that is whatever it is. But in terms of calling everybody soft-brained, right, who actually thinks about things, and CNN echoing what he just said there, this is classic demonization of people who are just tired of being lied to, right?
Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up, and we will debate the facts further in court. Now,
so my dog just threw up. Luckily, he got off the bed, which is always great. So I had to go deal with that. But CNN left off the part where he called Aaron Rodgers poop hole with 2 A's in the beginning, right? Because he's just clever like that. And here it says, phony nonsense that you soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. See, this is his lame attempt to make fun of people in the truth community to people who are really stupid. Like, his audience is really, really stupid. And I'll show you some of his, some of his original Aaron Rodgers, where he insults the guy. But he insults him to really stupid people who are low consciousness. I don't want to say stupid. I mean, stupid's part of it, but low consciousness, people who are really just like dead inside and asleep and remedial and superficial surface level people. Because he's not funny. His digs aren't good. His insults aren't good, but he gives them. And he's gone after Trump and these other people, the pillow guy, whatever it is. He got on his knees and serviced Hunter Biden, and I'll show you that. And he's been in blackface multiple times, and he was on the show, The Man Show. But then he turned it around and, became a feminist and a liberal and a woke person, even though he's still an a-hole. And he sucks at his job, right? Well, his job is, making fun of people who are, looking into alternative narratives to the debunked official story. To dumb people, I think he's good at his job, like as a gatekeeper. But, as far as being a comedian, being funny, being entertaining, he's none of those things. He's a former lowbrow comedian, which we'll get into, who said hateful and misogynistic stuff and then transformed into a woke sort of liberal. And now he shills for ABC, Disney, and whatever people who are paying him, Pfizer, whatever the mainstream story is or whatever it is, right? He's a shill, and he's bad at being a comedian. So I made this video a while back. It's private. Kimmel takes the summer off in bizarre Matt Damon sketch. What about his old Karl Malone? I guess that got cut off. And I started off by saying this. Sisters, I was going to make this video anyway, but there's a twist that happened today, which I forgot about. This is Jimmy Kimmel's. And he's taking a long vacation from sucking, right? From sucking at his job. So what happened is he took a 3-month off hiatus. We're not going to show you this. And he had this bizarre Matt Damon sketch to do with it. But, that was after this. And I'll show you this video in a bit. And some other scandals he had, right? And so he got caught in blackface twice, and he's done worse things and other things. But the blackface and fat shaming Oprah, I'll show you that in a moment. And instead of getting canceled like everybody else, he just went on vacation for 3 months and came back. And of course, there had been 50 other stories by then. And so, unlike Ellen, who was another gatekeeper who got canceled, Jimmy Kimmel and ABC Disney didn't cancel him, right? Which was, in itself something of like a complete hypocrisy on ABC's part because of what he's done. So I also have this video. After creepy Megan Fox comment resurfaced, how does Jimmy Kimmel still have a job? So Jimmy Kimmel, I guess he said something flirtatious and weird towards her in the interview, but let's go ahead and watch it here. How does Jimmy Kimmel's have a job? Still have a job, right? So this is from, I guess, 2015 or something. He's on with Megan Fox. Megan, big giant cursor can spot an Adam's apple.
I had just turned 15, and I was an extra in Bad Boys 2.
Really?
And yeah, they were shooting this club scene, and they brought me in, and I was wearing a Stars and Stripes bikini and a red cowboy hat and like 6-inch heels. And he approved it, and they said, Michael, she's
talking about Michael Bay.
15, so you can't sit her at the bar, and she can't have a drink in her hand. So his solution to that problem was to...
Wait, she was 15? She was viewed as a sexual object at 15 by Michael Bay. Of course, Will Smith doesn't care because Will Smith likes to get Will Smith. He's in Bad Boys.
And have me dancing underneath a waterfall getting soaking wet. And that's...
Perfectly wholesome.
At 15.
So Michael Bay sucks too, but this is about Jimmy Kimmel's.
I was in 10th grade, so that's sort of a microcosm of how Bay's mind works.
Well, that's really a microcosm of how all our minds works, but
Wait, what?
some of us have the decency to repress those thoughts and pretend that they don't exist.
Right.
He has the decency to repress his pedo thoughts of a 15-year-old girl being whatever. But here he is doing Oprah Winfrey. So he's in blackface, but he's also fat-shaming her.
My body is my temple. That's why I start every morning with a brisk aerobic workout. But I can't do it alone. Workouts are easier when you have a...
He put on a fat suit, which is a big deal. Like, there's people who have put on fat suits to play overweight people in movies and been criticized. And I'm not a cancel person. Like, whatever. I don't believe in it. But... these are fireable offenses in most cases. Like, people have been canceled for far less. So he puts on a fat suit, and then he puts on blackface, and then he goes on his crappy man show, and he does this not funny bit with being Oprah, doesn't sound like her, doesn't look like her, any of it, right? And he does this thing, and mocking her, right? I mean, this is, we're talking about him threatening Aaron Rodgers for saying something which was basically a joke. So this is a comedian threatening somebody for making a joke about him. And, Aaron Rodgers is smiling, happy about it. And, the way Aaron Rodgers said it, it could mean that Jimmy Kimmel is not happy about the list coming out because it's people on it like, Bill Clinton or whoever it is that he defends and these other people. Like, it could be construed in different ways. And Jimmy Kimmel's, whining about this thing, right?
A partner. My workout partner is my maid, Marguerite. Marguerite's soft brown stomach protects my knees and ankles from unnecessary wear and tear.
Not too much longer, mi sopra, okay?
So, I mean, there's lots there. It's not funny, right? He's never been funny. Like, his one big moment, which was kind of an insult, was he went on Jay Leno when Jay Leno had just, given his show to Conan O'Brien and took it back. And Jimmy Kimmel went on Jay Leno's show and said, made a joke about how, he gives something to a friend and then take it back immediately. And it was like his big moment, right? Because Jay Leno was being, attacked. But everything else he does sucks. Like, his jokes are lame. His delivery sucks. He's got a team full of writers and he still sucks. And he's trying to be political and he does it in the dumbest way.
Sometime at night, Karl Malone look up in the sky and say, what the hell going on up there? Do UFO live on other planet, phoning home like E.T.? Karl Malone read on TV about white people getting deducted by alien, sticking all kind of hell up their butt. And that's a damn thing.
So this is his, his impression of Karl Malone. Again, not funny. Not a great, better impression than his Oprah Winfrey, but not great. Karl Malone had his own issues, too. Karl Malone had some, like he impregnated a 15-year-old girl or something, accused of RAing or something. Like a bunch of stuff. Got into it with Kobe Bryant over his comments about his wife. Like, had a lot of different, bad moments. But that's, again, this is about Jimmy Kimmel's. And just by putting on blackface, but he's mocking Karl Malone's, his, how he, talks and things like this. This is okay for him to do, but Aaron Rodgers insinuates he might be on Jeffrey Epstein's list, and he's put his family at danger, and he's going to settle it in court, right? And ABC, Disney, is, so hypocritical, right? I mean, there's a lot to... I'll go back into Disney at the end of this thing. But he should have been fired for all this. Because when this stuff comes back, for anybody else, they're fired. Like Jimmy Kimmel, like he isn't great, and he doesn't have a huge audience. Nobody watches this crappy show. And so, like, why is he still there? So this is Jimmy Kimmel's original talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Epstein list.
Needless to say, all this UFO talk has the tinfoil hatters going wild, including...
That's the tinfoil hatters.
Including Green Bay whackpacker Aaron Rodgers, who...
Wait a minute. Whoa. I got to take back everything I said. Did you hear that joke? Green Bay whackpacker. He's a whackpacker. That's his joke. He's got a team of writers over there. I take back everything I said, Kimmel. That was an amazing joke. What a brilliant comedic mind. He called Aaron Rodgers a whackpacker. Let's play that again. I don't know, I might laugh so hard I can't finish the video, but like it's just amazing. Look at this brilliant man here. I went for a walk with my dogs. I ate lunch. Now I'm editing. And I don't think I gave sufficient mockery to whackpackers. Now, I went in on a little bit, but not as much as I should. Because he's got a team of writers there. And they're coming up with a monologue. And let's say Jimmy Kimmel comes into the comic room and he says, "Hey guys, I gotta mock Aaron Rodgers, and I want to say something about I don't know, about him being something about his name or his team's name or him being a quarterback or something, and I want it to rhyme. I want to have some zip and zing in it. What do you guys got? You guys got anything for me? Got anything off the top of your heads?" Well, Jimmy, I'm thinking of what about calling him a Green Bay slacker instead of a Green Bay Packer? Because he's got long hair and he comes from California. We can call him a slacker. And he doesn't think, he doesn't do his research properly. He's a slacker. What about that? Green Bay slacker. Oh, yeah, that's okay. You guys got anything else? How about quarter smacker? He's a quarterback. And why don't we call him quarter smacker? Because he probably used drugs. He's got long hair. He comes from California. And, he's kind of a slacker. And maybe he's shot smack or something like that. He's delusional because he's on drugs. Yeah, that's kind of good. That's good. But I got one. What do you think about this, fellas? What about whackpacker? Isn't that good at whackpacker? Because he's kind of wacky, and what he says is whack, and he's also a packer. What do you think about that? It's got a double entendre there. It's got a couple of, twists. It's kind of a deep joke. What do you guys think about that? Well, that's why you get the big jokes, Jimmy. That's just brilliant. That's an amazing joke. You definitely have to use that because, come on. How can we not use that joke? What an absolute burn that is to call him a whackpacker. He's whack and he's a packer and he's wacko like all these other crazy tinfoil wearing wackos out there. And that's just going to seal the deal. That guy, he might not recover from that. He might have to retire after that joke, Jimmy. That's like the biggest burn in the history of humanity. So, whackpacker. All right, let's get back to it, right? Let's see it again here.
Green Bay whackpacker Aaron Rodgers, who offered this hot take on the Pat McAfee show.
I I believe that this has been going on for a long time. Interesting timing on everything. There's a lot of other things going on in the world. Did you hear about the Epstein client list about to be released too?
What's that? What are you talking about?
There's some files that have some names on it that might be getting released pretty soon.
Oh.
Oh. Might be time to revisit that concussion protocol, Aaron.
So joking that CTE, which all these NFL players get, a lot of them get from multiple head hits, right? They, some of them have committed suicide and died early, but he can whine about his, the stuff to do with his son. His son has a heart issue, which again, it's not, he was born with a heart defect. And he was crying on air about his son, but shows no compassion to the NFL players who are, in their 40s and 50s and, after taking too many headshots, right? He thinks that's funny. Like, he can joke about that, right? And he fired first here. He went after Aaron Rodgers about the list, and Aaron Rodgers clapped back at him, and he whined and cried, and I'll sue you, I'll sue you. No comedian should ever do this. It's like the epitome of weakness, right? What a pathetic piece of crap. Like, he's gone after Aaron Rodgers before. This is from the New York Post. The condom fell off comment that sparked bitter feud between Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers.
It's funny that the companies who make the vaccine, we have no problem using their other stuff. No one worries about Advil, Robitussin, or Celebrex, whatever the hell that is. These pharmacies...
Yeah, people do worry about it. Like, there's people who want to know what they're putting in their bodies, and they don't trust the medical community. And I'll get into that more later. And I'm a person that doesn't do well with allopathic medicine. I don't take any of the over-the-counter stuff. I don't do well with it, right? I have to take more subtle type of, whatever. We all have our different systems, and I'm not promoting anything or telling people what to do. And I don't give advice about this. I talk about this quite often. But there's different medical models. There's, Chinese medicine, acupuncture medicine, acupuncture. There's homeopathics. There's Ayurvedic medicine. There is, traditional herbalism. There's Bach flowers. There's chiropractic. There's all these other things. And then there's the allopathic medicine. There's things I don't even know about, things that people do. Things that are out there that are, people are using for their, to benefit them physically. And so allopathic medicine isn't the only one. But he's basically saying it's the only one, right? That's the whole, the idea here.
Know who is vaccinated and who. And for those who are wondering that, this is what it's going to be like.
Guys, welcome to my vaccine status reveal party. And now the moment of truth. Am I vaccinated? Let's see. I'm not vaccinated. Idiot. Oh, where are you going? I take
So this is how
horse pills.
I miss the...
So this is how much of a shill this guy was, right? Like a Pfizer shill.
office parties.
This is why they don't fire him. This is why he can get away with doing blackface and all this other stuff.
Really do. Hey, speaking of unvaccinated coworkers, there's some potentially good news for Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets. They have a new mayor in New York, Eric Adams, who says he's going to reconsider the city's vaccine ban.
I covered this before with Kyrie Irving and the Aaron Rodgers thing. There's one more thing I got to show you too. Anyways, we'll get back to that in a second here.
When he takes office in January, if that happens, it could mean Kyrie will be back on the court. I just hope he's able to finish his research first. You know, he's been doing his own research. What if he...
Mocking people for doing their own research. Mocking people for not just listening to the official story, whatever it might be, and believing people who have a history of lying to us in every possible way, right? Like, you know, the people that are on the media, the people in these giant corporations, they've been caught lying over and over again. People are liars. But God forbid you exercise your ability to do critical thinking skills and make your own decisions. And he's mocking people for doing research, like literally saying, you know, some people's research sucks. Some people are stupid. You know, their research ends up being wrong and they're bad at it. But at least they're attempting to think for themselves, right? Like, even if you get it wrong, if you're working to think for yourself and not just blindly go along with the herd. But he's mocking that, right?
He enjoys that.
He was mocking the stuff with the Epstein list. Like, it's, why would anybody want to know what's on there? And, I mean, it's nothing's going to happen. Like I said in my, my other show, my other channel yesterday. It's no big deal. It's not as much, big deal as truthers are making it. But it's something, and it's some trouble of truth coming out or whatever it is, part of the show. But he's mocking that, right? All these young women who have suffered abuse and, have issues. I have a, tab open somewhere on my other toolbar where some woman who killed herself later on was, now it's come out that she was, part of the young girl involved with Jeffrey Epstein and these people. And, the trauma and tragedy. I mean, he's a feminist, but not when it comes to Epstein, right? So I decided to go back and grab Jimmy Kimmel crying about his son's heart condition to contrast with how cold and hostile he is to people who, don't believe in the official story and suffer tragedies, or people have suffered some kind of tragedies because of the medical community. And I found 2 more shilling sketches from him, these little goofy things he does that's not funny, about promoting the bloop and the stuff with Pfizer. So, we have at least 3 of them here. He's talking about it all the time. And he mocks and demeans anybody who questions the official story. Like, he has a bunch of doctors on saying, we're doctors and you're not, so, but we know more than you. We're professionals, but, there's issues there, right? And there's different ways to look at things. But they're, the level of mockery, it's bad mocking, but he's doing it for stupid people. These are the same people who like CNN, who trust CNN or trust MSNBC. These are people who would laugh at, I don't know, Big Bang Theory or some of these stupid sitcoms, right? These are people who watch, Desperate Housewives and, these kind of shows. Any of these types of things, right? Remedial stuff for simple minds. Simple's not a good word, but, just living on the surface, right? No depth, no questioning anything, no, just doing the whole, whatever America is, buying into everything the way it's presented to you, never questioning your existence or never wanting to improve yourself, never, I mean, the kind of people that would be NPCs in a movie or video game or a TV show. The people who are heroes are ones that question things. There's lots of conspiracies in movies and TV shows, conspiracies that the heroes have to prove, but he wants his audience to be these dumbed down people. That's who he's talking to. And that he says, oh, just listen to the experts. And, our experts, the experts that are backed by a $1 trillion business and have every reason to lie for you because they're on the payroll, right? But they're part of a paradigm. And so here it is, like this, all right here. Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel can get emotional, show you that he has a heart, at least in terms of, crying, when it's something that isn't related to some crazy, wacky conspiracy theorists or truthers or whatever it is, right? He mocks those things. He mocks the pain of other people when they have their, whatever they're going through because of things done by the government, done by foreign governments, things like what's happening with Israel and Palestine, all those things are. He doesn't have any tears for those people. But this was something that happened in Texas, an event that happened in Texas, a shooting.
For the little boys and girls.
So he cares about little boys and girls. Right? He's crying, right? And then here,
I have a story to tell about something that happened to our family last week. I'm sorry, I try not to get emotional, but it was a scary story.
Maybe you try to get emotional because, you get emotional when it's something pertaining to you or something that aligns with your political beliefs. But if it's something, that's more tragic, that might be caused by something that you're shilling for, it's not the same thing, right?
And before I go into it, I want you to know it has a happy ending, okay? So when I'm telling this, don't get too upset. Leave that to me. But a little over a week ago on Friday, April 21st, my wife, Molly, gave birth to a boy, a baby boy. His name is William John Kimmel.
Bill Kimmels.
Thank you very much. We call him Billy. It was an easy delivery, 6 pushes. He
Billy Kimmels.
was out, and he appeared to be a normal, healthy baby until about 3 hours after he was born. We were out of the delivery room. We moved to the recovery room. Our whole family was there, and we introduced him to his 2.5-year-old sister. She was cute with him. We were happy. Everything was good. My wife was in bed relaxing. And when a very attentive nurse at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, her name is Nanush, was checking him out and heard a murmur in his heart, which is common with newborn babies, but she also noticed he was a bit purple, which is not common. So she asked me to come with her, and my wife and I assumed it would be nothing. Our daughter had a heart murmur too, and we didn't notice that he wasn't the color he was supposed to be. So I accompanied Billy and the nurse, went down the hall to another part of the hospital, the neonatal ICU, where another excellent nurse named Ann checked him out and called the doctor in. And now all of a sudden it felt serious. And the room started to fill up. More doctors and nurses and equipment started coming in. And they determined he wasn't getting enough oxygen into his blood, which, as far as I understand, or understood at the time, was most likely one of 2 things, either his heart or his lungs. And you hope it's the lungs because sometimes they have fluid in them after delivery, and it's potentially a minor thing. But they did an x-ray, and his lungs were fine, which meant his heart wasn't. So now more doctors and nurses and equipment come in, and it's a terrifying thing. You know, my wife is back in the recovery room. She has no idea what's going on. And I'm standing in the middle of a lot of very worried-looking people, kind of like right now, who are trying to figure out what the problem is. And it's Friday night, and so they call a pediatric cardiologist, Dr. Evan Zahn, who, when they called him, was picking his mother up from the airport. Luckily, her plane was not delayed because he got to the hospital very quickly. They did an echocardiogram, which is a sonogram of the heart, and found that Billy was born with a heart disease. Something.
So, you know, I would never mock something like this, right? I mean, you have to draw a line. You know, I mean, whatever this is that he's doing here. And, you know, whatever there is with this kid. But a child being born with a heart murmur or heart, condition is a tragic thing, right? And so I don't have a problem with him crying, obviously, or being emotional about this or having this reaction, obviously. But the problem is he doesn't keep the same energy for other people, because we know that there is a thing called heart safe schools, right? There's logos and images, and it started with this project. Adam was a kid named Adam who had a heart attack in Indiana, but now all of a sudden kids are having cardiac arrest all over the place. Young kids, athletes, which we've seen, Damar Hamlin. It's a new thing. Like, it wasn't there before, and something caused it. And there's no official explanation for it. Why is there such a huge uptick in heart-related issues, heart failure, in young, healthy people? And there's been some new things that have been introduced into the human system, the bloop, and, 5G and COVID and all these things. There's been some changes, and there's something's happening to kids and young people and athletes that wasn't happening before. And of course, there's this defibrillators in schools. 20 states currently have laws related to automated external defibrillators, or AEDs. And this is being added to colleges and schools and public places where there are now defibrillators all over the place. It's common because kids' hearts are failing all over the place. And he's not asking those questions. He's mocking Kyrie Irving for asking those questions and doing his own research, but the official story isn't talking about that. So I've showed you this before from Vox. Depression and suicide risk are side effects of more than 200 common drugs. I'm in the editing process, but somewhere all along the line, he's saying this thing about how people take all kinds of pharmaceutical drugs and nobody worries about them, but there's this one thing, the bloop, that people are concerned about. But these drugs, many of them common drugs, lead to depression, which is already an issue with kids, and suicide risk and suicide ideation. And they have a list of these drugs here, and there's quite a number of them, and some of them are very common that people are using. Lots of people are using them. Here's the list of them. Like, these are all the lists. Some of these are things that you take for antidepressant, and these are all the drugs that cause suicidal symptoms, and lots of them, anticonvulsants, antidepressants. These are drugs that are antidepressants. These are hypnotic sedatives and things like this, and suicidal symptoms, and then these other drugs here. And then they get into the things that cause depression down here. And so, I mean, think about all this stuff that has this as a side effect. There is 250,000 medical deaths a year. Doctors kill 250,000 people. Other reports claim the number to be as high as 440,000, almost 500,000 people. Medical errors. Third leading cause of death in America. And so even, with all the things going on. And so, Jimmy Kimmel doesn't have any, tears for these people, right, that are suffering because of the medical community. Pfizer works with Disney ad sales to promote COVID story. And then Pfizer biotech tap Marvel heroes to boost rollout. Pfizer signs $1 million ad buy with Radio Disney. Not just Disney, but ESPN and ABC and all these other companies.
Here, get her the one thing she's been waiting for. The COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer. Don't just be her somebody. Be her antibody. Because the quickest way to the heart is a syringe. Inoculate yourselves with love. The COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer. Not available anywhere.
So this is from Jimmy Kimmel, and it's like it's supposed to be funny, but really this is a commercial, right? And I'll show you another one. And this is, he's shilling for this. But they said something here, and I'm going to show it to you again, because I missed it the first time. But she says the quickest way to the heart is through a syringe, right? Turns out that's true.
Because the quickest way to the heart is a syringe.
Adults in the United States are now fully vaccinated, which is good, but unfortunately, more than 1 in 4 say they are not planning to get the vaccine ever. 26% of Americans are planning to skip the shot altogether, which is crazy to me. I get that people are skeptical of politicians or celebrities telling them what to do, but we should listen to doctors. These are men and women who've been on the front lines.
But Jimmy, doctors are responsible for 250,000 deaths a year, the third largest cause of deaths. So we're not allowed to question doctors and scientists like people in the past weren't allowed to question ministers or priests, right? It's the new religion. You say that people are skeptical of companies, and that's okay, and politicians, but doctors would never lie to you. Plus, there was the opioid epidemic, which doctors were fully involved with, distributing these painkillers that cause so much damage and all the stuff to do with that, pharmaceuticals, and the 200 pharmaceuticals that cause depression and suicidal ideation as side effects. So there's all these things, Jimmy. What about those things, Jimmy?
This thing, risking their lives to save ours, and they're frustrated, and who could blame them? If we don't get more people vaccinated, we could see new mutations of this virus and go through this all over again. So as a public service, we asked some real doctors.
Did that happen, Jimmy?
To offer their best advice to those who are on the fence about the vaccine, and pay attention because this is important.
I'm a doctor.
I'm a doctor, an actual medical doctor.
I've practiced medicine for 21 years.
I am a critical care nurse.
I've been a nurse for 16 years.
I spent 4 years in undergraduate school, then 4 years in medical school.
These guys are professionals. They do this for a living.
And then another 5 years as a resident.
They got lots of experience and training.
Medicine.
Look at all of my diplomas.
I worked a second job to put myself through nursing school.
I'm 53 now, and I won't have my student loans paid off till well after I retire.
I can name every organ in your body and tell you exactly what it does.
Did you know there are between 60 and 100,000 miles of blood vessels in the human body? I know that because I've studied human bodies.
Did you know the human body has 205 bones? Well, you're wrong. It's actually 206.
Boom. Aha, you got me. I thought it was 205.
I did know that because I'm a doctor.
Did you know that eating raw ginger cures cancer? You didn't? Good. Because it doesn't.
I've saved people's lives.
I've cracked open a chest and manually beat a human heart.
I've even delivered some babies
Wow, she did that.
in the back of cars.
Do you know how many
I
people
delivered a baby, so, I won.
have shown me weird skin things at parties and asked me if they were dying?
Too many.
My life is spent trying to improve and save yours.
Oh, but you read something on Facebook?
Your friend from high school who sells jewelry, she posted it?
The one who's 53 and still builds dollhouses?
I get it. Like, all these people who aren't doctors are coming in with crazy theories and, making decisions that, could affect the greater good. I mean, it just makes so much sense now that I see all these professional doctors mocking people who do their own research.
You heard what? On whose podcast?
Is he a doctor? No. Scientist? No.
Can he name one of the ingredients in the
Is he a shill? No?
vaccine?
Can he point to his gabella?
Then tell him to shut the up. The Borbella's right here, by the way.
Boom, exactly. Give anybody doing their own research the finger. Anybody thinking for themselves, anybody who would question the third largest killer of people should definitely get the finger.
Polio shot we gave your kid, and then your kid not getting polio, well, those two things are related.
How about this? You do your job, I'll do mine.
Get the vaccine.
Get the vaccine.
Just get the vaccine. Grow the up and get the vaccine.
And tell your friend on Facebook to stick to jewelry.
Brought to you by the people who are smarter than we are. Woo, Kimmel, woo, you nailed it, woo.
Medical professionals. Thanks for.
So, all right, so this is that guy, right? Okay, you can say whatever you want, but there were at least 3 commercials that we saw there. Those are commercials. Those are advertisements for, something that we know how it all worked out, right? We can debate about how it worked out, but we know that it wasn't as important as people made it out to be. And then he shelled for it in his monologues as well. So, this guy is a hired gun. Whatever money and compensation he's getting and his pressure from his handlers and, the owners of the, Disney, this is Disney, ESPN, ABC, we can all see it, right?
That so much he decides to become a researcher full time. Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers is in quarantine right now. A-Rod tested positive yesterday for COVID and will miss Sunday's game against the Chiefs. He'll be watching it from home. And no one
Wow, what a great play on words.
seems to know that he wasn't vaccinated. He hasn't been wearing a mask, even where it's required. And at one point, he claimed he was immunized, but looking back at when he said it, it should have been obvious that he was not.
Aaron, you said you like to learn as many things as you can and hang in any conversation. Are you vaccinated, and what's your stance on vaccinations?
Yeah, I've been immunized.
Yeah, you see, did you notice the air quotes? That's how you know. We now know he is not vaccinated because unvaccinated players who test positive have to isolate for 10 days. Had he been vaccinated, he would have had a chance to play this weekend. Aaron Rodgers reportedly received a homeopathic treatment over the summer instead of the vaccine. We should have known, because nothing says I heal myself with crystals like this haircut. I mean...
What comic genius?
That little...
homeopathic remedy and crystals is completely different. And he lives in Hollywood where all these people do all this crap, right? And it's, I'm an alternative medicine person. I've talked about it. Allopathic medicine doesn't work well for me. But, some of this stuff works, some of it doesn't. And he's making fun of this new age stuff. He lives in Hollywood. He lives in, he hobnobs with all these celebrities, and they all do alternative stuff, right? But to his dumbed down audience and the laugh track that he needs because his jokes aren't funny, he says things like this.
Not on top. Aaron is a Karen. That's the fact of the matter.
He's a Karen. Well, and they rhyme. I mean, it's a great joke, but it also rhymes. What an amazing comedic mind.
Honestly, the only thing worse...
Woo! Clap that. You got to clap that. Don't let the Aaron is a Karen thing.
Then, the only...
and he wasn't that, because Aaron Rodgers and Kyrie Irving were pressured into giving their opinion. Both of them didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to take the bloop, but they didn't want to talk about it. Aaron Rodgers, he said, one of the things he couldn't take because he had a peanut allergy, plus he already had COVID. So he looked into it and he didn't want to take it. But he didn't tell anybody. And he didn't want to talk about it. That's why he did the air quotes thing. He wasn't going out there and pushing his opinion on other people and trying to influence fans and other people to do what he did. He didn't want to talk about it. Neither did Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving lived in a state where it came out, and there was other players who didn't get it but ended up not being, destroyed by the media. And of course, all this stuff looks pretty bad now for these clowns, right? I mean, anybody looking at the thing objectively would say, yeah, it hasn't worked out like these guys said. These Pfizer shills like Kimmel's, right? But none of them, he's saying Aaron Rodgers is a Karen, but Aaron didn't want to talk about it. He was forced to talk about it, and then the media tried to destroy him. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. They weren't out there being a Karen. Karen's somebody who freaks out and acts like inappropriately, based on some fear-based thing. He's being a Karen, right? By definition, he's the Karen here. He's the one when Aaron Rodgers suggested he was on the list or whatever that joke was, he flipped out and threatened to sue him. That's a Karen. That's what a Karen does. That's a Karen's face right there. This little dweeb.
Worse than not getting vaccinated when you're in close contact with other people is letting them think you're vaccinated when you're not. It's basically the COVID equivalent of the condom fell off. It's funny.
That's not funny. There was more in my old video here I want to show you.
Is the most beloved and respected man in Hollywood, and there's a very good reason why. Just look at him. Keeps his hands where you can see them.
See, this guy has been a pig, and I'll get back into his Man Show. They show a few clips here, and I got another clip, right? But the Man Show was one of the most sexist shows and stupid, immature, like 8th grade level humor.
Never says a rude word, and most importantly, no penis at all.
They cheered no penis.
Only 11% of movies are directed by women, and that is nuts. We still have a very long way to go in that department, and a very long way to go when it comes to equal pay.
Yes, exactly. Jimmy Kimmel's has been so respectful of women over the years.
I've stuffed something in my pants, and you're allowed to feel around on the outside of the pants. You have 10 seconds.
You're allowed to feel around. Well, that's so nice of him. She's allowed to feel around his pants. What a guy. Look at how respectful of women he was. Look at how wonderful a man this guy is. He's allowing this, I don't know, prostitute. What's happening? He's allowing this woman to search his pants.
To then guess what is in my pants. You should use two hands. Two hands.
Exactly, 2 hands, this one.
Before, haven't you?
That's funny.
Maybe it would be easier if you put your mouth on it.
Oh, that's respectful, too. He's respectful. He's a champion of women.
How old are you?
18.
Okay, good. You sure of that? Because Uncle Jimmy doesn't need to do time.
Uncle Jimmy doesn't want to do any time.
You're gonna make a fine wife.
So here is Jimmy Kimmel's going up and grabbing this woman from behind while she looks through the thing. The other guy's laughing. He's going to, I don't know what he's doing there. I think we know what he's doing there. And what else you got, Kimmel's? There you go, Kimmel's. Yep. There you go, buddy. Yeah, you're a feminist, buddy. Here's Jimmy. Okay, so, this is an old video of mine, and there's things I'm leaving out. Like he did this thing called Red Brand or something where, I can show you a few pictures of this, but Bono dressed up like Mephisto and, his alter ego and is really satanic and creepy. And, they sang a song that was, if you don't donate to AIDS, you're going to hell or something. It was a Christmas tune. And they had, Julia Roberts and all these other celebrities that were involved in that. And it was very weird, twisted, demonic, devil worshipping crap. And again, not funny or entertaining. Classic Kimmel's. But the guy is an absolute pig and a disaster. I forgot this as well. His studio is the old Freemasonic Lodge in Hollywood. So, there's that as well. So where he films his, where people come see his show, is formerly a Freemasonic lodge. And, again, I don't believe in canceling, but if you're going to cancel some people and not others, and this guy should have been canceled for what he did before and what he pretends to be now. And now he's a hatchet man to, say to stupid people, don't think, don't question the official story, and Joe Biden is great and Trump is bad. Things that are just anybody can figure out for themselves. And even to the point where he's so, he gets on his knees here and he services Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden on crack addiction, political divide, Ukraine, Donald Trump, laptop, and finding love.
Our next guest is probably the most famous board member of a Ukrainian energy company of all time. His new memoir is called Beautiful Things. In case you've been wondering where he is, welcome Hunter Biden.
Look at him go. Look at Hunter. Look at Hunter. There we go. We'll do the elbow thing because it was COVID time. They planned that. They executed it to perfection.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I have to tell you, after reading this book, I'm impressed that you're alive.
You're so great to be alive, that you survived. I mean, it's so hard for a guy who grew up with the privilege of being a famous senator's son and then the vice president's son and now the president's son could survive his own self-destructive behavior, right?
Really am. It is amazing that you are alive after all the crazy things that you've been through.
No, that he did. These are self-inflicted. It's not crazy things he's been through. He's a crackhead, an addict, and a junkie, and he has really no excuse because he has all these white man privileges. Like, this is a guy with real white privilege. I mean, all these woke liberal people going after white men and white men privilege, and Hunter Biden is the epitome of that, right? Somebody grew up with elite status and used his father's name and, his father who participated in extracting lots of money for foreign companies to support his drug addiction, and banging his dead brother's wife, his widow, his brother's widow, and then all the things that went around with that. He's got kids he should be raising, and he was irresponsible. And, this guy's a comedian. He's supposed to be a comedian and a political comedian. And as much as he loves to make fun of Trump, and he brought on, Stormy Daniels, and, he had Stormy Daniels, he brought out a tray full of orange mushrooms, all of different sizes, and he wanted Stormy Daniels to pick the one that represents what Trump's manhood looked like, right? And so, that's okay. But, when Aaron Rodgers, makes a little joke about him, he's whining and suing him. But then this guy comes on, a guy who banged a stripper, a president's son. This is a guy who's, a political, famous politician's son who's now president. And he banged a stripper named Dallas from Arkansas. And they had a baby. When he was a crackhead, he didn't remember it. And that's hilarious. I've talked about this. The sentence alone is hilarious. And he didn't cover it. None of these guys did. And he's, sitting down, he's getting down on his knees here and servicing this crackhead.
It was a journey, but thank God I made it through.
Yeah, no kidding. And
you know what?
A lot of the things that you detail happened here in this neighborhood, right around here.
Yeah.
It was you were doing crack at the places that I eat.
Yeah. Well, I not intentionally. I wasn't stalking you.
No. I didn't think you were.
Yeah, I think you were, Hunter. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
We now consecrate the bond of obedience. Assume the position.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
But, I feel like I learned a lot about crack, and I know that sounds weird, but
There's an information book. You're so great, Hunter. I mean, my God, Hunter. I now know about crack thanks to you, Hunter. I know how you can use your dad's name to get a job in some foreign country that you never show up for, and you're here in my neighborhood doing crack and on West Hollywood, and with strippers and drug addicts and pimps and things like that. And now I know about how to do that, and kids can learn about it too. You're such a humanitarian, Hunter.
About it, and you see it on TV shows and in the news every once in a while. But I learned how to get. I really think I could get it now, thanks to your book.
Exactly, it's an instruction manual.
Well, I hope that wasn't the message that you took from the book.
Because you're such a good guy, Hunter.
How-to manual?
No, it's not a how-to.
Well, I misread the whole thing then.
It's a please don't manual.
It's a please don't, yes.
Yeah,
no,
please
absolutely.
Don't.
It's
So he goes through all these stories, and I'm not going to go through this. I covered this before. I just can't sit through this video again with these two, really unlikable people. But at the end, he gets into how great and supportive Joe Biden has been, and then he, praises this guy more.
Problem, really.
Yeah. No, look, I really don't know. And the fact of the matter is, it's a red herring. It is absolutely red herring. But I am absolutely, I think, within my rights to question anything that comes from the desk of Rudy Giuliani. And so, I don't know.
No, he can do that. But everyone else is a crazy, paranoid conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hatter, like Kimmel said. He can try to use critical thinking skills.
Is the answer.
Do you ever wish you'd had Apple Care?
Yeah, that would have been a good.
There's one other thing I want to ask about, because it's the end of the book, and
so they're joking about this laptop, which is not a joking matter.
You are married now. You found love, but the way you found love. You have to understand that on paper, this doesn't sound good, okay? And correct me if I have any of the details wrong.
Okay.
You meet some strangers.
Yeah.
They say, oh, we have a girl you should meet.
Yeah.
They give you her phone number.
Yeah.
You text her like
what kind
late
of friends
at night.
Are that? Yeah, exactly.
She's sleeping.
Yeah.
She's like, leave me alone, I'm asleep. The next morning she texts you. You guys have like lunch together or something. Yeah. In an hour, you tell her you love her. Yeah. She tells you she loves you.
Yeah.
Then she finds out you are a crack addict.
Well, I tell her. Yeah. I mean, within the hour.
You tell her. It's not a liar.
Before I told her I loved her, so that she had an out, I told her. I said, look, I have a real problem. But it's amazing.
And then you marry her a week later.
Yeah.
It's a great love story.
Woo!
It's not a guy who has, problems with impulsivity. A guy who dated his brother's ex-widow and has done all kinds of drugs and does things impulsively, and then videos them, puts them on a laptop and drops it in a tub and brings in a bunch of laptops and hard drives and leaves them all over Delaware and forgets about them. And his father's running for president. He impregnates a stripper. It's not a guy who has impulse control problems. I mean, it's a wonderful story.
Yeah. Now, if I'm your dad and you tell me this story, I go, oh no, no. What did your dad say when you called to tell him this?
Well, you know what? He said, I called him to tell him, and he got on the phone with Melissa, and he said, I'll tell you the same thing that my mom, my grandmother, said to my now mother when we got remarried. We say we got remarried after my mommy's death.
His mommy died in a car accident, which is really suspicious. And then he married his, this woman that was already married to somebody else. She was 18 years old when Joe Biden, started dating Jill Biden. She was married, and she didn't want anything to do with him after the first date, but somehow he wooed her, and now the whole family's married. She's married also to this crackhead.
And he said, I thank you for giving my son the courage to love again.
Wow.
What a great man.
He says the right thing, doesn't he?
He just always says the right thing.
He does.
Yeah. Well, this is
this guy just said Joe Biden always says the right thing. Remember when Joe Biden said this?
President Biden, the Me Too movement has forced a cultural reckoning around the issue of sexual violence and harassment against women in America. Are there specific actions that you would take early in your administration to address this problem?
So after babbling about it for quite a bit, he delivers this zinger.
No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger other than in self-defense, and that's rarely ever occurs. And so we have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big, no, I really mean it. It's a gigantic issue, and we have to make it.
She's laughing, right? So he raises his fist and says, we got to keep on punching at this problem of domestic abuse. And Jimmy Kimmel had the balls to say that that Joe Biden always just says the right thing, right? But he wants to sue Aaron Rodgers for, making a joke about the Jeffrey Epstein list after all that. And, a guy who, he just, again, got on his knees and serviced Hunter Biden. Who's watching Jimmy Kimmel? What level of consciousness does someone have to sit down and say, oh, I'm really looking forward to seeing Jimmy Kimmel? I mean, Stephen Colbert, sucks, and Jimmy Fallon sucks, and I think Jimmy Kimmel's by far the worst. I mean, it's so bad. And that they let all this stuff go. Like, this is hilarious, what Joe Biden just did. And almost nobody knows about it other than, Trumpers and, truthers and things like this. I mean, all the gaffes. Somebody just sent me a great compilation of gaffes. I don't know if I have it up here. I don't know if I'm going to show it in a video or not, but someone put together just of this year. And Jimmy Kimmel's such a gatekeeper and shill. Top model who jumped to her death from her Wall Street apartment building had flown on Epstein's jet as a teen, court docs said. So this is, somebody who later on committed suicide, apparently, in air quotes. And, this is the kind of thing that Jimmy Kimmel wants to mock and make sure that people don't take seriously and think about because, there's nothing here. Nobody suffered. And, but Aaron Rodgers, you can't say this to me. We'll send this in court, buddy. Even though I started calling you names first, you can't say stuff like this about me. Come on, Aaron. Stop it, Aaron. It's being mean to me, Aaron.
Because the quickest way to the heart is a syringe.
The thing about it is people care about the people they identify with. And I've talked about that with truthers and, they're all upset about me criticizing Britney because she has suffered a long life of abuse, but don't care about when I mock Lady Gaga or I mock Cardi B or something like that, right? I've talked about this extensively, that people care about the people they identify with, but other people they don't care about in war and other countries. And, people are compassionate to people that they view as, like them or whatever, or, are being paid or whatever it is, right? Personal self-interest and things like this. And Jimmy Kimmel is just another shill in a sea of shills in a world where shills are, important on every level for the economy and everything else. But the problem is they have overwhelming amount of resources, right? I'll show these pictures here of, Disney has all these various, entities, ESPN, and, it's a mega company, has Marvel, and it's bought up all these things. And they're doing poorly in terms of business. But they have, in their cartoons, they have, there's a zephyr creature that's like a part, lion type of big cat with leopard spots. But the spots are a symbol that the FBI has confirmed is used by pedos, right? FBI have revealed this symbol. And this is just one among many things Disney's done that's been sexualizing kids and things like that, right? And it's this mega company. And they have more power than, people like me and you who just go speak their truth, and, the people who are influencing social media and, chasing us off of social media and all the rest of it, right? And when you have a subjective group of people, people who are themselves, corrupted and they are gone to the dark side and they have all the power, then you have problems in your society, right? And everybody's corrupted a little bit. Everybody's subjective. Everybody's self-interested. Everyone's selfish. People are disconnected from God and their family. We're all contributing to this nightmare system. But there are people who run the system who have a little bit more say and power. And Jimmy Kimmel's is a gatekeeper for those people. and the system, and he dumbs things down to the masses who are needed to mindlessly go along with the agenda. And he does his job here, and then he mocks people. And then Aaron Rodgers makes a small joke at his expense after he's attacked Aaron Rodgers and caused him all kinds of names. And he said he wants to run into it. Like, this is, how bad it's gotten. But anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.